Hello, welcome in or welcome back to my channel. My name is Deb from DG Reads, and I am here to do a weekend reading challenge. It is Friday evening and I made kind of a last minute decision to give myself a reading prompt for the weekend with a weekend reading challenge. If you haven't seen one of my challenges before, basically I have a jar full of reading prompts, and whatever the prompt is, it could be anything from only read with your eyes, only read from a particular book box, pick a book with a random something or other. All of those types of things are in here, and whatever that prompt is, I use it to read for the weekend. In present day, it is a 3-day weekend. In fact, I do have President's Day off on Monday. I have a feeling this is probably going to be one of the later things I post, so this may be way in the past by the time you're seeing this, but it's a nice long weekend, a good weekend, hopefully for reading. I am participating in a 48-hour readathon on Cassidy with Covers with Cassidy Patreon, so a little extra motivation to get a lot of good reading in this weekend. I don't really have a ton of plans for the weekend, but so I may get out and about, I may sit on the couch and crochet and read. I don't really know what the plan is, but first we have to figure out what the prompt is. All right, I'm hoping for something a little fun. Okay. Here we go. This should be interesting. So it's to use my prompt ball TBR game to actually pick my prompts for the weekend. So this is exactly what I was thinking. Something that allows me to pick a book in the moment, and I don't know what to read for the next book, if that makes some level of sense. There's a weird alarm happening outside, and it's the second time it's gone off. I don't know what it is. If you're hearing that, I apologize. But what it does mean is we need to go upstairs where my prompt ball machine is and use that to figure out what I'm reading. So I'll see you upstairs. Okay, we made it upstairs. This is my prompt ball machine. If you haven't seen one of my TBRs, this is my TBR game. It's a prompt ball machine, a gumball machine full of gumballs, plastic gumballs with reading prompts in them. I use them every month to pick my TBR, part of my TBR at least. And yeah, they are prompts from all over. Some are easy, some are hard. And with this type of challenge, when I'm trying to pick a book in the moment, it needs to be a book I can get a hold of. I'm not going to be running out and buying a new book to fulfill a prompt. So hopefully this works. But without further ado, let's pull out our first quarter. Okay, we get a prompt from around the year in 52 books, and it is for a book with a serpentine item on the cover. Took me a little bit longer than I expected to kind of go through everything on my shelves. Well, not everything. Go through enough things on my shelves and think and double think and question my choices on what counted as a serpentine thing on the cover. But I think what I'm going to go with is Never Ever After. Now, in terms of what is serpentine on here, I think her hair kind of being wavy, if that's going to focus really well. And I think that works. Definitely the font has a little bit of a serpentine type of thing to it. And if you look at the audiobook, there's a little dragony serpentine wavy thing down at the bottom, kind of like there's ones on the spine. Again, not sure if that's focusing or not, but I think there's enough on here that this makes sense to me, and I have the audiobook available, which is good because I do want to sit down and do some crocheting. So this, I don't know too much about. This is by Sulin Tan. This is a Fairy Loot edition that I received. It is really, really pretty. What I remember of this is it's a blend of Cinderella and Chinese fairy tales. So I think it's got me intrigued, and definitely one that I'm hoping to really, really like. Just so gosh darn pretty. Art in here, and more serpentine on the actual naked hardcover there as well. So I think we've got our book, and I will check in once I get going on it. Just realized that there's also an alternate cover. Again, more serpentine, like little serpenty dragon things. So I will check in with you once I get into this one. Probably tomorrow morning would be my guess. Just I do have one other book to finish up for something else, maybe, although this is calling to me now, so we'll see. But I will check in with you later either way. Hello. It is the next day, Saturday. I think I last talked to you last night. That was the plan. I've had a productive day, relatively speaking. I went and got new nails. I have finished the book that I needed to finish for something else last night and made a good start on Never Ever After, and now just had lunch and I am halfway into Never Ever After. And generally I'm having a good time with this one. It is a Cinderella-ish type of a story, but definitely not the perfect fairy tale of Cinderella. It's not a happily ever after with the prince type of story. And I like that about that. I like the nods to the original story, but also that it is indeed very different. Our main character in here is the step niece, I guess it would be, to a woman who's very controlling. She makes her dress up, pretend that she's a fortune teller and telling people's fortunes, both to make some money, but also while the step aunt is stealing from them while they're distracted. And this is their way of making a living. She's not treated well. They don't have much money overall, and what they do have, the aunt is gambling away, and she really doesn't get to see any of it. She's trying to make enough money to get out from under her aunt's thumb, get away, and make her way on her own. In an instance where things go really badly, she winds up meeting this talking carp, and this carp says it was sent to find her and kind of give her her birthright, it sounds like, type of a thing. And she's always had this ring that belonged to her family. It's like the only thing she owns. It's like a wooden ring. It's not much value. But the carp is able to give her what really the intent behind it is, which is a flower. And her life becomes kind of tied to this. And if she loses this, which is embedded like in the ring, kind of, I was a little confused, to be perfectly honest, with exactly what happened. But if it gets removed from her, her life essentially will fade. She will eventually die from this. The longer she has it, the more her life gets tied to it. But regardless, it's a problem. And then almost immediately, her aunt gets involved. And she winds up having to chase her aunt down because her aunt has made off with the ring. And this involves her sneaking into the prince's ball and trying to get help there. She winds up having a relationship with the prince, and there is definitely initially some idea of perhaps a positive relationship, but we quickly see that the prince and our commoner Cinderella character aren't really made for each other, and he's rather infuriating, and she's once again kind of having to find a way to get out from under somebody's thumb. It is an interesting story because it keeps going in new directions. Like, it does an abrupt left turn and suddenly it goes somewhere else. She's now kind of entered a competition. There's not a huge like trials aspect to this, but there was a little bit of something, and then she's off on another quest, I think, from here. So I am generally liking her. I'm liking the fact that she's standing up for herself, that she's not taking the easy route in things, and I'm eager to see where it's going. Honestly, I'm not really sure at the moment, but overall, I am enjoying myself with this. I've been working on my hexagons for a crochet project. I have 24 to make this weekend, or not this weekend, but this week, and I have 16 of them now done. I need to make 8 more. So that is the plan with the audiobook for this one, and I will go on from there, and then we can discuss final thoughts and a new prompt. It's now Saturday evening. It's not that late, but it feels late. It is a little after 8, I think. And honestly, I'm ready to put my PJs on. I'm ready to maybe read a bit in bed and snuggle up with pup and call it a day. But I did finish up Never Ever After. So we have one book successfully completed, and I have mixed feelings about this one. I liked things about it. I liked the way that it blended kind of Chinese mythology and kind of Cinderella story, but a flipped on its head type of Cinderella story. And I think that part of it was well done. I think the writing was good. I wanted a little bit more depth maybe to the characters in some moments. I think the main characters we get to know fairly well, but the side characters, not quite enough for what I would have wanted to really be able to distinguish them from each other. There were twists and turns to the story, in some ways good, some ways not as good. This feels like it was multiple stories almost in one, because like I said, it makes some really abrupt turns. It is divided in parts, and that makes sense. I really did like our main character and her journey and her pushing back against things, and she definitely gets put through the ringer in cases, and she's in difficult positions, and she's trying to do what is right, and it's not always obvious what that may be. The relationships in here, I guess technically you could call it a love triangle, but to me, the prince just is set up to not be someone that we're supposed to like. I don't know if maybe we were supposed to, because I did see some reviews talk about this being a good love triangle, and to me it didn't feel that way. The man she ultimately gets into a relationship with, I did like a little bit more, but again, both of them have morally gray to them, and there's not like a perfect prince out there, and I think that's partly what this is trying to say, is that there isn't a happily ever perfect after, and that is kind of the falsehood of a fairy tale like Cinderella. So in the end, I am glad I read it. I enjoyed it. I thought it was entertaining enough, but it did drag in a few places for me, and ultimately it wasn't a new absolutely favorite, but I am definitely interested to read more from this author in the future. But in this present moment, I am more eager to find out what our next prompt is going to be, so let's do that. right. The next prompt is... Okay, that shouldn't be too hard. Actually, that's going to work out, I think, pretty well for me. And that is a book published by PRH Audio. Okay, I think what I'm going to go for is A Vow in Vengeance. This is by Jacqueline Rodriguez. This is a gifted audiobook I received from PRH Audio. It is also the buddy read for Mel at Melanor Reads Patreon, and I've seen people really enjoying it, so I think this one sounds like a good one and one that I am definitely eager to pick up. It is a little bit on the longer side, so we'll see how quickly I can get through it. My PRH Audio app only goes to 2x speed audio, so this is going to be 9 hours of listening, but we'll see. If it feels too slow to me, I could invest and actually get myself the audiobook elsewhere, because the audiobook is actually out now. So we'll see how it goes, but I am really excited for this one. Should I have gone with something actually 100% on my TBR for the month? Maybe my prompt ball TBR for the month, maybe because I'm halfway through the month and not halfway through that TBR, but that's okay, because this is the one I'm called to pick up in the moment. So we are going to hope that we love it. Good morning. It is Sunday. It is bright and early. Not so bright actually, but early. And I am ready to check in with you so I can get back to reading. I wound up going to bed fairly early last night, mostly just played dumb games on my phone, on my Switch, and listened to my audiobook, and that was just kind of the perfect evening. And I made it halfway through A Vow in Vengeance by Jacqueline Rodriguez. I don't think I told you anything about this book other than I was buddy reading it, but it is a debut romantasy. We are following Rune, and she is out for revenge. And this is because the Immortals took her entire family. They basically took everything from her, and she wants them back, and she wants answers to where they are, go get them, all of the light. To do so, she winds up getting herself into their realm, into a world where she is going to their academy to learn about the magic system. This is a world that relies a lot on tarot for their magic system, including the fact that people's powers are determined by the pull of a tarot card. She, of course, winds up with a very unique magic, and the only other person at this academy with the same magic is the prince, and they wind up having to be paired together, live together, etc., because they are both possessing this very unique magic. This is definitely an enemies to begin with, kind of quickly turns into a reluctant allies more than enemies to lovers. I think it's mismarketed a little bit under the enemies to lovers category for me personally, but I am really enjoying it. It was really easy to get into at the start. I did wind up using a credit to get the audiobook, because a book that's less than 400 pages should not be an 18-hour audiobook. It definitely was slow, so I bought a copy so I could speed it up a little bit more to be at a more natural listening pace for me. Otherwise, I think I would have been more focused on the fact that it was slow than actually the story itself. But I'm glad I bought the credit for it, because it is going really well for me so far. The dynamic between this pair is really good. I think he recognizes that she has uses, that she has value fairly quickly. She is definitely on a revenge mission, and I love a kind of fierce female character on a revenge mission, but she's also smart about it. She's taking her time. She's learning the magic system. She's learning where her reluctant ally can be helpful to her. I am really enjoying the banter between the two. I think that's really well done. The audiobook for this one is fantastic. We have a male narrator narrating the male lines, and we have female narrating her portions because we're in her head. And I like the politics, the kind of dynamics of that, and the shifting interplay between the people in charge and how that impacts the relationship between our two main characters. And so far, I would say it's going really well for me. So I'm gonna go get my coffee, bundle up on the couch. It's actually cool this morning. I think it's in the low 60s, and I am really excited for that. At some point today, I do have to actually make myself presentable. I have a haul to film, and that's my main plan for the day. But in the meantime, I think there's some sprints going on from different people, and I'm just gonna have a cozy day. I have 5 more hexagons in my crochet project for this week to finish up by tomorrow, so I would love to get that done today. I have a whole other crochet along that's a year-long one, but I haven't even touched the February stuff because of this other crochet along, so I feel like I'm starting to slip behind, but that's okay. We'll get there. We'll get caught up. It's fine. So I am eager to keep going in this one. I'm already thinking ahead what I could wind up reading next. I'm in the mood for a thriller, so I'm putting out vibes into the prompt ball machine here to maybe give me a prompt that might work with a thriller of some sort. That would be nice, but we'll see. We'll see where the day takes me. So far, the prompt ball machine is not steering too far wrong. I have finished up A Vow in Vengeance, and overall I did enjoy this one. It was a good time. It didn't require too much brain power, but there was enough kind of plot stuff going on to follow. The relationship in here really goes through it in weird ways that weren't all my favorite. Weird's the wrong word, but it goes from enemies to reluctant allies to lovers really rather quickly. It didn't hit the slow burn that I was kind of hoping for from the synopsis, but skipping over a couple of places where it just gets into the smut a little early in the story and so forth, it didn't permanently stay there, which is always my concern, that a book is just going to lose the plot and turn into purely the romance, the smut of it all. And this one did not do that. There was enough to the story. There were twists and turns and reveals that we got later in the story that I really enjoyed that I didn't all see coming. I definitely would be interested in reading the second book. I think this one had some pacing issues. It had some just generally trying to do a lot in a really relatively short story. It was only 368 pages, I think, according to Goodreads, and it went through quite a bit and a lot of relationship development from strangers and enemies and opposite sides to feelings and everything else in the span of a really short period of time. So that part wasn't my absolute favorite, but it still was a fun time. It was definitely an easy read. It was one that kept me entertained and kept me crocheting and playing my games and so on and so forth. So all that said, this one definitely went pretty well, and I'm hoping the next one will as well. It is now Sunday evening. I have Monday. I feel like I'm not getting through much this weekend, and that's partially I've had distractions going on, but also I think I've picked a couple longer books that have taken me a little bit longer to get through, so I think that's part of it too. So I'm hoping to get a quick read so I can finish one more book this weekend, and I'm feeling called like to maybe a thriller or a horror, something along those lines would be nice, and we'll see. Kylie brought up her toy right behind the camera, so you've probably been hearing that. And no shock, it's Kylie causing chaos. So let us find out what our next and probably final prompt is going to be. Okay. Not exactly what I asked for, but I think this will work too. Genre sci-fi. That gives me quite a few options. I don't know right off the top of my head what I'm going to do, so give me a moment to figure that out. I think I picked well for this one, and I am well past the halfway point in the Memory Collectors. It is about 11 o'clock Sunday evening. I am very ready to get in bed, but I'm having a great time with this book, and it's keeping me hooked, keeping me entertained. I was playing a game, had a puppy in my lap, did not want to move off the couch, so I'm closer to 2/3 of the way through this one rather than halfway, and this has me thinking, what if I did one more prompt after this? We'll see. Not making any commitments. We'll see what tomorrow looks like. But this one is really interesting. It's definitely not sci-fi really, other than the technology exists for this time travel. We are following a few different people, and they're all strangers to each other at the outset. We have a mom who lost her child. We have a woman who hit some people on a bike lane and killed one, severely injured, permanently injured one of the others. We have a man who lost the woman he loved, never really knew what happened to her, and all of these people are given this opportunity to go back in time and spend 1 hour in their past. They don't, when they sign up for this, really get that much say or any say in the matter of when they go back to. The technology isn't that directed, or at least that's what they are told. As we are following these people, their 1 hour turns into much longer. They don't get pulled back to the present, so something obviously has gone wrong. They don't know what though. They don't really have a lot of control over their travel. They're meant to be pulled by the people in their original present back to then. They've all been brought to the same date and time, and slowly they begin to see the overlap and see the other people, and that they're not the only one who got stuck here, and that it seems awfully coincidental they all wound up on the same day and the same time, and are kind of trying to get answers as to A, what happened in the past, what some of the things were that caused them to come to this date or to want to revisit this date, and also what may be happening to keep them in the past. I think that the different POVs are really interesting. It is very quick, and now that I'm looking at the print, I've been doing this on audio because of course I have. I'm in a playing games and not really using my eyes for books type of thing. The print in here is rather large, so it makes sense that it's going so quickly. But the different characters in here are interesting. They each have their own kind of connection to this timeline they're in the past. And the way this works is like their consciousness goes back into their former self. So it's their body from that time period, but it's their brain from the future. And They have complicated histories. Even the woman who did the kind of hit and run, there's a little more to the story, and she was the one I didn't like as much up front because, I mean, she very almost willingly ignored or put a bag over her head, dug her head in the sand, whatever the correct term is. 11 o'clock at night, my brain is struggling a little bit about the fact that she hit someone and was negligent in leaving. It was an accident. She wasn't drinking. It just was an accident, but she left the scene and so forth. So it's an interesting kind of idea of what it means to go to the past, whether you can impact the past and what's going to happen in the past or not. And is the fact that they're there for more than the hour they were meant to be there, that was supposed to be the only amount of time someone can go back safely and have everything go smoothly. And obviously, if they're there longer, what could be going wrong with that? I don't know. There's just a lot of intrigue in here, and I am really, really glad that I finally got to this one. And I look forward to continuing on and seeing how this one winds up. Okay, I finished up this morning. I really tried finishing it last night and it didn't quite happen. The Memory Collectors, my phone finished it, I should say. I, however, did not. I woke up, realized I had missed the ending, rewound, put it back on, woke up again, realized I had missed just like the last chapter or two. That's not a commentary on the book, although I will say the ending wasn't my favorite part of it. I think this one dealt with time travel in an interesting way. It did its groundwork of saying that nothing happened in the past would affect the future, and that's true. The events of the past definitely impact the characters and what they know about things, and they can learn new information and so forth. This could have gone like in a very detective fiction type of way. I've seen stories like that where detectives go back in time to investigate crimes in the moment and figure things out. We get a little bit of that going on in here. I just thought it was a really interesting kind of approach to this, the way the stories wound up intermingling over time and how they impacted each other as well. I do think the ending tied things up in a neat bow, a little too neat in some ways, a little too cozy maybe almost in the end, but overall I did really enjoy my time with this one, so this was a big win. So it's Monday morning and I'm so tempted to pull another prompt, but I really think I would probably wind up regretting forcing myself through another full book, because who knows what prompt could come out. It could be over 500 pages, and I do have quite a bit to get to today. I was not nearly as productive yesterday as I meant to, so I do think I am going to wrap us up here at 3 books, but let me know in the comments below, have you read any of these? And if you've made it this far and you'd just like to let me know you were here, leave me some sort of emoji of something you might collect in honor of the Memory Collectors. If you could hit that like button below, I would surely appreciate it, and subscribe if you're interested in more of my reading challenges, more of my book reviews, and more of my bookish content in general. But for now, I'll leave you here and see you real soon in a new video.